Hello and welcome. This is Chrisanne, and I'm coming at you from Elemental Energies with Chrisanne. Today, we continue our 3-class series on the Akashic Records. I am super excited about these classes. I have a very big class that's coming up on how to read the Akashic Records for mediumship and for animal communication. So that's what these 3 separate classes, the first being about the Akashic Records. Check that out on my website. You can find the information right here about my website. My website is www.elementalenерgieswithchrisanne.com. So go to my website, check out that free class that's already posted. This class will be posted on my website for free. And then, of course, the animal communication. So we're going to have Sarah put that picture up that can give you guys all the information that you need. So go ahead and put that up when you get a chance, Sarah. In the meantime, last month we talked about what is the Akashic Records. And I'm going to review a little bit of that for those that weren't able to join for that class. So here's the information on mediumship, animal communication, the Akashic Records. Here's my website. You can go there and check that out. We can move on to the next slide when Sarah gets a chance. Lovely Sarah's helping me. Thank you, Sarah. And we're going to hold here for a minute. So the Akashic Records hold a lot of possibilities. And that's what we talked about in last month's class that you can find on the website for free. So the possibilities are the Akashic Records holds the information of your past lives. It's your soul's history. It's your soul's information and what happened from your soul through all the past lives. Now, for me, I do readings in the Akashic Records very, very, very differently than probably the majority of the people that read the Akashic Records out there. I studied with Linda Howe close to 16 years ago. Check out her books. She has some amazing books on how to read the Akashic Records. She does not do mediumship and animal communication in the Akashic Records. I do, and that's what I teach. So the possibilities in the Akashic Records are accessing the information from your past lives, utilizing your skills of mediumship in the Akashic Records. And if you're not familiar, mediumship is speaking to those that are on the other side, those that have passed away. I also talk in my class, not this class, but the more formal class, on accessing people that might be in a coma or have a severe brain injury. I have done that within the Akashic Records via utilizing my mediumship skills. Is that common? No, not really. But is it possible? Absolutely. You know, the other things that we can do in the Akashic Records is animal communication, both living and deceased. And those possibilities are because all those souls that we come in contact with in this life, we have had connections with in past lives. I don't care in what incarnation they are in and in what form they are in. They are our soul family. And we always incarnate with those that are part of our soul family. And whether they're 2-legged, 3-legged, 1-legged, no-legged, 100-legged, I don't care. They're part of our soul family. So our animals are very much part of our lessons and our different things that we need to know. And that information is held in the Akashic Records via animals as well. You know, the other things that we can do is look into our future lives. We can also connect with our guides and we can connect with our angels. Using our skills of mediumship, once again, connecting with those that are on the other side, those that have crossed over. If you are a medium, you know it's a little hard to turn it off sometimes. Sometimes the veil is a little thinner than other times. Yes, Halloween is one of those times, but there's other times depending on what's going on astrologically, what's going on within your life, different things like that, depending on your emotions, that makes that veil a little bit thinner. The easiest way that I have found to utilize my mediumship skills is via the Akashic Records. And here's why. I'm a medium. I've been a medium my entire life. I've been speaking to those that are on the other side since the age of 3. I'm now 51. So this is a long time that I have been a medium. Been there, done that, multiple lives, experienced that as well. The difference with just doing regular mediumship and doing mediumship via the Akashic Records is once you're done with the Akashic Records, you close the door on it. You lock the door and you can walk away. It is a very different level of closure, shutting the door, shutting the window, however you want to view it. You need that level of disconnect when you're a medium. And for me, once I started doing the Akashic Records, I found that level of turning it off and having that disconnect. Oh, that was such a relief for me. It was a much easier, quicker. It was wonderful. It was such a gift for me to be able to utilize my mediumship skills within the Akashic Records, which was not something that people were doing, at least in my circles, at least that I knew of 16 whatever years ago. So I remember I had the conversation with Linda Howe during one of my classes, because I took 2 classes with her. And I had said to her, you know, I'm speaking to those that are on the other side every time I'm going into the Akashic Records. And she's like, that's because you're a medium. That's what you do. She says, I don't do that. That's not what I do. I said, well, why isn't anybody else in the class saying this? And she's like, that's not what they do. She says, that's what you do. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. You know, not only was I seeing past lives, that soul connection through the lifetimes, but I was having that mediumship experience as well. And for me, having all the clairs, clairaudient, clairsentient, you know, all the clairs. If you don't, please look them up. Having all my clairs ignited meant that was my skill set that I had in the Akashic Records. So you need to know what's your skill set. Are you great at animal communication? Fantastic. Are you good at mediumship? Wonderful. Do you have one but not the other? Hey, that's okay. That still works. And for the principles of my class that I'm going to be teaching in August, I would like you to have at least one of those skills. And I teach you how to hone those skills. Mediumship is a gift. And I tell people, as well as animal communication, both of them are a gift, but we're talking about mediumship today. Mediumship is a gift, and I view it as an honor that I'm able to connect with those that have passed and those that are on the other side. It's a wonderful gift. But that being said, be careful what you wish for. If you're not used to it, you might not be used to it. And the same thing goes with connecting with your guides and connecting with your angels. You know, those are wonderful skill sets to have. And I think we're going to take this slide down because we're done with this slide for right now. So thank you, Sarah, on that slide. As we continue talking about mediumship and connecting with those that we need to connect with on the other side, realizing that there are so many that we can connect to. And you might say, well, you're connecting with my grandmother, but I really didn't know my grandmother. Maybe didn't know her in this lifetime, but you most likely knew her in another lifetime because you have that soul history. You have that soul family. connection. So there's that connection. So we tap into that connection in the Akashic Records. The Akashic Records holds a vast amount of possibilities, not just connecting with past lives. I mean, that's the tip of the iceberg. Hey, that's wonderful. Don't get me wrong. That is a really important part of the Akashic Records. But I'm here to say there are other possibilities within the Akashic Records that I myself have been utilizing for more than 16 plus years. And for me, it is the mediumship, it is the animal communication. It's connecting with my guides, your guides, my spirit animals, your spirit animals, my angels, your angels. When you're reading for somebody else, professionally, fun, doesn't matter. My guides come in to help connect with your guides, who help connect with your soul family. It's a matter of take a number and get in line for those on the other side. And it can be a little bit daunting or overwhelming sometimes if you're not used to it. And I was not used to it in the very beginning, even though I was doing mediumship things. It was a very different experience for me to do that in the Akashic Records. And it took me a little bit of time of saying, okay, you step up to the podium next. You step up next. Who's got number 3 next? Let's go. And I think that's one of the most important things to learn is how to utilize your gifts. Because if you're here, you've already got these gifts. And it can be a little overwhelming sometimes if you don't know how to categorize and you don't know how to take it step by step. And that can be a little daunting. It can be a little bit overwhelming. So learning how to do that, utilizing all your gifts, which is so important and so wonderful. And that's something that needs to be easy. So if you're going to be doing this professionally, and hey, why not? You might as well. You might as well utilize your skills professionally. First of all, you have to develop courage in order to be able to do that. But secondly, you need to develop the skills to know what's going on within your psychic space so that you can do this appropriately, efficiently, accurately, to the best of your abilities. Because I know for me, I take my professional work very seriously. Somebody chooses to spend their hard-earned money on a reading with me, wow, that's cool. That's an honor. I've always taken that very seriously, and I have always worked to the highest and best of my abilities. And that's what I like to teach my students on my ways that I like to do it, and my techniques that have worked very well for me, that have made me very efficient in what I do. And here's the other thing. When I do a reading for somebody and I list, I'm going to be doing a reading in the Akashic Records, I'm a medium, I do animal communication, I do past, present, and future, etc. They think they have to pick one of those. You don't pick, they pick. And that's part of what I teach you, is how to kind of go with the flow. Because if you've been doing this work, you know, you do not choose what comes in for a message or who comes in for a message. They choose and they give the information of what's highest and best for your client, your person you're reading for, your friend, your loved one, or yourself, if you're doing a reading for yourself. I like to share a little bit of stories in my teaching because that shows my point of what I'm talking about. So I always keep everything anonymous. I never share who's who and what's what. That's nobody's business. But about 30 years ago, before I was doing the Akashic Records, but this is a prime example of what I'm talking about. I was doing a reading for somebody who was a mutual friend of a dear friend. I knew her a little bit, but I didn't really know her. But anyways, that was fine. I was doing a reading for her, and she came in with a very specific set of questions. She wanted to talk about her career. She wanted to talk about her work. Normally, I don't remember these readings, but I remember this one because it got belligerent. It got a little ugly. And she was insistent that we were going to do a reading on her work. And I'm doing the cards, and I did tarot for her. And even though you might do cards, you need to keep this open because the messages are still coming in. And that's what was happening. And I said, listen, I know you want to talk about work, but that's not what the cards and the messages are talking about. You need to go home and have a conversation with your youngest daughter. There's something going on. Your youngest daughter is in peril. You need to go home and have a conversation with her. Keep in mind, I was like, I don't know, 20, 21, 22 when I'm doing this reading. And she was an older woman than me. She was more than double my age. And she wasn't hearing it. She did not want it. She kept insisting nothing was wrong with her daughter. This was a bunch of baloney. She was getting angry at me. And I'm like, listen, I know what I'm getting because you have to know your skills. You have to know what you know. And I knew what I knew. I didn't care what my age was compared to her because she was getting huffy and it started to become a thing. And I'm like, listen, this is it. This is what I'm telling you. And I gave her a little more details, more than what I'm going to share now. And I said, you need to go home and you need to talk to your youngest daughter about what's going on because she needs your help. There is something going on. Go home, talk to her. And that's that. She left in a huff. She was not happy with me. And I thought, I've done what I can do. I've said what I've said. The guides, the angels, everybody came in to say what they needed to say. 2 weeks later, she came back and told me she was grateful for me because unfortunately, her younger daughter was being abused. And the abuser ended up going to jail. And they did end up getting the youngest daughter a lot of help out of the situation, counseling, therapy, etc. There are times I'm not happy to be right, but I knew what I knew. And I stood my ground. And you have to have that attitude, not that it's an attitude, but you have to have that conviction when you are going to be a professional reader. I don't need to argue with everybody, and most people don't argue with me. I mean, I was taken aback. I was shaken. I was really upset. Like, that shook me. I'm going, oh my gosh. Like, nobody had ever spoken to me like that. Like, I'm just trying to help you. And I'm just giving you the messages. Like, don't shoot the messenger. But I didn't back down. I'm sorry that that had to be my lesson, and that poor girl was in that situation, that was my lesson. But that was my lesson. And I'm grateful that everybody's okay now. And everybody soon was okay. It soon became a situation where everything, police got involved. It was a thing. But that girl got out of that situation. And if I hadn't stood by my convictions, how much longer would that have gone on? Sorry to say that she was even in that position to begin with. Horrible, terrible. But I didn't back down. And I made sure I said something. And I made sure I said it strong and clear that mom understood me. She didn't like what I said, but she listened because I wasn't backing down. I wasn't being wishy-washy. You have to own your skills. You have to know what your skills are and own them. And I like to think that's what I can help teach people. You know what you know. And you need to be able to know it enough to share it, especially mediumship work. When you are talking to those on the other side, being something like an evidential medium, meaning you give evidence of what your mediumship abilities are. What is the person's name? What era were they living in? What are some characteristics of their personality? Can you describe what the person looked like in life? What are some of the jewelry that they're wearing? What are some of the funny little words they used to say? Can you hear their phraseology? Do they talk with an accent? Do they speak in a different language? I have had many people speak different languages that I don't speak. And I have had to phonetically write it down or phonetically kind of hear it and be like, it sounds like this. I don't speak French and I don't speak German, but I have had those on the other side that speak those languages that I don't speak, but they were desperately trying to get a message through. Okay, we're going to do this. And I was able to do that by using the Akashic Records. And when I'm done, I'm able to turn it off, because I have a saying that I say to get into the Akashic Records before the reading starts, and I teach you that. And then at the very end, when the reading is done, I have a saying that I say to close the records. That's the key. The key to breaking away and not carrying everybody's everything with you. Because let me tell you, when you have a child who's being abused, how can you not get emotionally involved in that? Or you're reading for somebody, I've had a lot of people that come to me that their children have died and they would like to speak to their children, or they want to know who's with their children. This is emotional work, but it's an honor. It's a gift. It's a gift that you can give somebody. Yes, I charge for my time because this is my skill set. I had to pay to study with Linda Howe. I'd pay a lot of money to study with Linda Howe. Glad I did it, because it really blossomed my business big time. I studied with Diana Cooper. I had to pay for her classes. I studied with John Holland. I had to pay for those classes. I had to pay for their time to teach. Thus, I charge people for my time. I've rolled back my prices to what they were more than 10 years ago. And my prices have been at that for a little over 3 years right now. So during the whole pandemic, I rolled my prices way back, way back. My hour reading is about $50 off from what it used to be when my shop was running and in full force. So I can't not charge, because this is how I make my living. This is how I choose to put food on the table, pay for my son's clothes, food, glasses, whatever. I have bills to pay too. This does take up my time, as does teaching takes up my time. Yes, it's something I am passionate about and I absolutely love, and I love sharing it. And that's why I'm choosing to teach these classes. This was a series of classes that I was going to teach many moons ago, and then the pandemic happened. So let's get rolling back to it. So in my How to Read the Akashic Records class, I teach how do you access past lives. I teach how do you do mediumship in the Akashic Records. How are you communicating with those on the other side? I also teach how do you do animal communication and how to recognize when those situations are coming up. And what do those different things mean? What do those different visuals mean, or different auditory things? Or maybe you're getting tastes, maybe you're getting smells, maybe you're getting a feeling. We talk about all that because all of that happens. You may not even realize that it's happening. Sometimes you have to step out of the situation and realize, oh, that's why I was smelling lilacs. Or sometimes soon after my mother-in-law passed, and I loved my mother-in-law, we were very close, and she smoked a certain type of cigarette. I hated it. But anyways, I could smell her cigarettes. And I was like, oh, Louise is here. Louise is popping in. Louise is helping us. Louise is here for this. You get to know those clues, those triggers of your skills. And it's kind of neat. Yes, it can be overwhelming. Yeah, it can be. But the benefit of doing it in the Akashic Records is you do a reading for somebody, you say that saying to get in, and then you say that saying at the end to get out, and then it's cut, it's done, and you don't ever go back into anybody's Akashic Records without their permission. I have books of people I have read for over the years. Never will I ever go back into their Akashic Records, ever, without their permission. They have to set an appointment, and we do what we do. Same thing for family and friends. I don't. If I'm just talking to somebody on the phone and I'm getting a message, oh, here's your message. Hey, this is coming to me. Let me tell you this. That's different. But I will not do a formal tapping into anybody's Akashic Records without their permission and their approval, and nor should anybody do that. So there's a lot of knowing those things, knowing what's right, what's wrong, the morals of being a psychic, I guess we're going to call this. And the morals of being a psychic is you have to respect yourself, you have to respect the people that you're reading for, and you have to respect them that are coming in, whether it be the loved ones that have passed, the animals that have passed, their angels, their guides, all of it. Or else you won't be able to do this work because they'll put a stop to it. So the more you can hold yourself up to that level of higher standards, I'm not saying you got to hold yourself up to every higher standard in life, but when it comes to the Akashic Records, yeah, I hold myself up to really high standards. You can't have caffeine in you when you're doing a reading, which for some people that's a deal breaker. It impedes the reading. You have to watch the medications that you take. I am not a doctor. I am not advising anything medically, but I am just saying, if there are some medications, for instance, marijuana can be prescribed. Yes, it's also recreational depending on where you live. I'm not casting stones to anybody. I am saying if you do marijuana, it will affect what you see in the records. So the other thing is you can't have alcohol in your system because that will affect. And in fact, Colette Barron-Reed, a very famous psychic who works for Hay House, is a recovering alcoholic, and she talks about this in her books. So I'm not saying something out of turn. She talks about this in her books and in her lectures and her talks. And when she does a private reading for somebody, they can't have any alcohol. I think it's like 48 hours. I don't think it's 24. I think it's 48, but don't quote me on that exact number. But it's at least a day. We'll put it that way. Because when she taps into their energy, she can feel that within them. And she's a recovering alcoholic. So that's one of her rules. That rule kind of applies for the Akashic Records as well as the reader. I don't say you as my client have to abstain from caffeine, etc. Although I did a very large gallery reading many moons ago, and there was alcohol at the event. I will never do that again. If people are too inebriated to hear the message, then we have a problem. And I didn't realize it was going to be, hey, I might be psychic, but I didn't realize they weren't going to be shutting them off at a certain point. Never will do that again. I, as the reader, hold myself up to a certain amount of standards, because if I'm going to be doing mediumship and I'm going to be speaking to those on the other side, whether it be your parent, your grandparent, your child, this is a super emotional time for you, the person receiving the message. And I need you to be able to hear this message effectively, efficiently, with clear eyes, ears, and heart. I know I can't be intoxicated and attempting to do these things. In fact, I don't drink, period. I haven't ever. I had a couple sips when I turned 21. It wasn't my thing. I don't like it. Now I'm allergic to it. So yay, that's fine. I don't even like the smell of it. I don't smoke. I can't have anybody around me that smokes because I'm actually allergic to that now too. So it's kind of funny how my body reacts to these things that I'm not supposed to have around me that I'm actually allergic to. It's weird. It's a pain in the butt, but it's reality. I mean, I see it for what it is. So I know I need to keep myself in my highest and best good. And for instance, if I have somebody scheduled for a private reading and I get a really bad migraine, I get a lot of migraines, but if I have a really bad migraine, I reschedule. I will not do a reading for somebody if I'm half with it, quarter with it, because that's not fair. That's not fair to them who is wanting to put their hard-earned money into this reading. That's a big deal for them. You know, I always joke that men aren't going to remember what their wives say, but they're going to remember what I say because I'm the psychic and I said it to them, according to them. So, and I read for more men than I realize, but whatever, that's neither here nor there. So just be open to reading for everybody and however you identify. It's not just men or women. It's those that are non-binary as well. I read for everybody, and I'm really happy that a lot of times my reading gives people freedom in that aspect of their lives. I'm lucky enough to live in Aguquit and Wells and have these wonderful experiences growing up. So no judgments whatsoever. You be who you want to be, you be who you are, you embrace your inner everything. You're inner goddess. Be the goddess you are, because I am too. So, but anyways, I digress. So about the mediumship, because we digress. Within the mediumship, people can find the answers in all aspects of their lives. And finding those answers is very freeing for people. I don't care what the situation is. I don't care what the question is. I don't care what the answer is. It's not for me to judge and interpret what the meaning of the message is. I just give the message. It may not mean anything to me, but maybe a plate full of lilacs means something to somebody as opposed to a vase of lilacs. That could mean the world to somebody. That's not for me to judge. That's not for me to say in my head, okay, I'm seeing a plate of lilacs, but I'm going to tell them I'm seeing a vase of lilacs because a plate of lilacs is really stupid. No, that's not for me to decide. I give the message. However it is I get the message is how I give the message. And you will see people change their whole affect from when they very first come in for a reading, from when they leave. My good friend and former business partner used to tell me, if they're not crying when they come to see you, you're doing something wrong. Because I would be like, oh my goodness, everybody's crying. I feel so bad. Everybody's crying when they come to see me. I don't want everybody sad. But they weren't sad. I was the safe place for them to let go of their emotions. And that's what happens when you do mediumship readings. Mediumship allows people to have that connection that they need and then release, and trust me, those floodgates open, release all of that doubt, fear, anger, guilt that people have had over the years, over the months. So when I'm going to read for somebody and they tell me they want mediumship, they want to connect with somebody who they have lost, I do ask them, how long has your loved one been gone for? Because I don't read for somebody unless their loved one has been lost for at least 3 to 6 months. There are many mediums that won't read for somebody who's been crossed over unless they've been crossed over for 6 months to a year even. And here's why. Once we cross over and we're on the other side, we have a job to do. We have multiple jobs to do. We have a new level of existence from being on this plane to transitioning to being on that plane. And once we transition to that plane, we have a new existence. We have a new way to spend our time. Not that time exists there, because it doesn't, but a new way to spend that time and a new role to perform. You need to allow that loved one that time to get acclimated to where they are at on the other side. If they can't get acclimated, there might be a problem, because if we jump in too quickly, I have this and this and this, I just want to ask my loved one, maybe there's a question about how they died. I get that a lot. Questions about their death. I just need to know. It's very time sensitive. Well, I'm sorry. And I won't do it because it's detrimental and harmful to the loved one on the other side. And there are people that will go and find somebody else. And I'm sorry, but I'm sticking to my morals on this one. I established those rules for a reason. I need their loved one on the other side to be set and established before they can even be set and established in order to have a conversation with me and them, the loved ones. So yeah, we talk about all that in the class. And we talk about time frames. And my time frame used to be 6-9 months. Now I can do 3 to 6 months, depending. But the other thing is just because you're a medium and just because you're doing the Akashic Records doesn't mean that loved one's going to come in and want to chat. I can show you ways on how to maybe encourage them to chat. Still doesn't mean they're going to chat. Most of the time they do. I'm 99.9% effective with that. But am I 100%? No, and nobody is. And that's okay. We talk about that in the class too. So what's this class I'm talking about? So I'm talking about this class that I'm teaching in August on the Akashic Records. It is a workshop. It is a 2-day workshop. It's on a Saturday and a Sunday. And in this workshop, we talk about all different aspects of accessing the Akashic Records. We actually hands-on will access the Akashic Records. So it is a class that you have to be there for. It is a very hands-on class. You have to actually participate in the class. I pair people up. We do readings. We do readings for ourselves. We do readings for each other. We practice Akashic. We practice mediumship. We practice animal communication. We practice all of it. And I want my students to be comfortable in doing what they do. I want my students to be comfortable. I want my students to be prepared. I want my students to be ready to go forward to do this level of a reading. Because if I'm saying, this is a class I'm teaching, and this is what I'm going to teach you, this is what I'm going to teach you. So the class is August 19th and 20th. And it's from 10:30 to 5:30, both days. It is $350 for the weekend. You can find all the information on my website, but I also do a little bit of an interview just to make sure that everybody is in the right class and everybody can bring their A, B, or C game to the class. You know, if you tapped in on some of your mediumship, that qualifies. If you've done no mediumship, no. But if you've done a little bit of animal communication, yeah, that qualifies. If you've done animal communication and mediumship, yes, definitely. So if you can do one but not the other, that still qualifies you. And I'll show you how to expand that. But if you can't do either one, I need you to do a little bit more practice before you attend this class, because I want it to be a fair experience for all participants in the class. I took a class years and years and years ago. I'm not going to name names, but it was a very big teacher for Hay House. Psychic, very big psychic who was doing some teaching, and he's published through Hay House. Took this class, it was Aquapala in Massachusetts. It was a big deal. It was a lot of money. I had to pay a lot of money to go for the class. I had to pay to stay there. I had to pay for the food. It was a lot of money. It was not what it was supposed to be, because they let everybody and anybody in the class, and I got nothing really out of it. I was so disappointed. And he realized what the problems were, and he taught the class again. And this time he had an interview process. I interviewed them. I'm like, listen, I was in that first class. What is going to be happening in this class? What is the level? And, you know, I encourage people to do that with me. Ask me, you know, contact me. You can contact me through the website. Contact me, reach out and find out what the class is all about. Even though I'm doing these 3 free classes to tell you what the class is all about, I want you to be able to still feel like you have communication with me, to ask me these questions, because, hey, that's only fair. So, yeah. There's a little bit of an interview process. It happens over the phone. So it's a phone conversation. It's like half an hour conversation. So check out my website. Thank you, Sarah, for putting that up there. So the website has all the information, elementalenерgieswithchrisanne.com. So go there and you can see, yes, you can sign up for the free classes. The next one is going to be happening in July. So feel free to sign up for that. That one is going to be animal communication in the Akashic Records. And then in August is when the workshop is happening. So sign up early for that so we can get the interview process over and done with. Like I said, it's approximately a half an hour on the phone, but you know what? If the phone conversation needs to go longer and you want to chat and you want to ask me some questions, fantastic. I welcome that, because I have been there and I have done that. So I do ask that you have experience with either mediumship or animal communication in order to take my Ultimate Akashic Records class, which is happening on August 19th and 20th of 2023. And I plan to repeat this class at least once a year. And I do plan to continue it through Zoom. It will not be in person. It will be through Zoom, because I can access more people all around the globe that way. And it will be a certificate course. And I do hope you take your knowledge and you go on and you use it for your professional readings as well. So check out my website. There's a lot of information there. Go under where the classes are, that class section. There's a lot of classes there too. I've been teaching and teaching and teaching. Check out my monthly metaphysical classes that I teach every single month. That's there as well. I do offer individual classes. I do offer a class on learning to read with a whole bunch of decks, 10 plus decks. There's a lot of classes there, but right now we're talking about the Ultimate Akashic Records class that's happening in August 19th and 20th of 2023. But that being said, thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. Any questions, let me know. This has been Chris Ann from Elemental Energies with Chris Ann. So take care and be free.